Hello, my name is Lawrence Daniels, Director of Litigation with the Office of the People's Counsel. Today I'm talking with Adam Carlesco, Assistant People's Counsel for the Office of the People's Counsel. Adam handles a lot of our climate matters, so there's a lot to talk about. Adam, there's been a lot of change at the federal level. So where does climate policy stand in the District of Columbia?
In D.C., the laws are as they are. They are binding and mandate reductions in emissions across both buildings and transportation in the district. Despite the funding shortfalls from the federal government, those mandates are codified within statute. And so in the district, we still have the Healthy Homes Act that helps fund and requires transition from gas and towards electrification of buildings. And they provide rebates for a number of households, particularly low-income households, to do those sorts of conversions and energy efficiency programs. We also have goals for a more EV-ready infrastructure within the city that we'll be seeing, hopefully, 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2030. And on top of that, we have the Climate Commitment Act, which requires 60% reduction in emissions from 2006 levels by 2030 and net zero by 2045.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what is the Public Service Commission doing to compel compliance with these emission laws?
Alongside all of their other dockets that work on improving energy efficiency and interconnection of solar systems that plug into the distribution network, they have, within Formal Case 1167, requirements that both Pepco and Washington Gas file 15-year, 5-year plans, as well as climate business plans that show what their transition to a net zero emissions regime would look like for each of these utilities. And within those, Washington Gas had filed their 15-year plan about a month and a half ago, and we've submitted extensive comments on that. And Pepco has just filed their 15-year plan as well as electrification study just last week.
All right. You mentioned that Washington Gas has filed their 15-year plan. How does that fit within the emissions scheme in Washington, D.C.?
So they filed a plan about 2 months ago that largely relies upon, 4 central ideas. One of them is improving efficiency within the gas distribution, sending gas through the pipes into the buildings and offices throughout the district. And so that would include line repair and replacement throughout the district. Another avenue that they have would be procuring more certified gas, which has a more rigorous emissions review standards for upstream sourcing. Another avenue that they've chosen is to look towards procuring more renewable gas. So that would be coming from methane from landfills or other things along those lines. And then lastly, to cover up the shortfall from that, because we're looking at essentially a stagnant level of gas that is being burned within the district. They aren't anticipating reducing that gas distribution. They are looking to cover that shortfall via purchasing certified carbon credits on an open market as a way of trying to meet that reduced emission requirements that's required of the law. So that would essentially purchase the carbon credits that are coming from renewable energy projects or other emissions reduction projects across the country or across the world.
Yeah. And you mentioned that Pepco also has filed its 15-year plan. How does it fit within the overall climate goals for the city?
So Pepco just filed their plan last Friday. Today's Tuesday. So we're still in the process of reviewing that. That said, they are relying upon 2 central pillars for their plan. And one would be working on improving the electric vehicle charging infrastructure within the district. And so that would be setting up chargers throughout there, making sure that the lines and wires and transmission systems or distribution systems throughout the city have, the enough capacity to handle the increased demand that comes from these electric vehicles that are now coming onto the line. And so that would be personal vehicles, that would be buses and other sorts of electrified transit throughout the district. As well as making sure that they have time of use rates that put into place so that it incentivizes owners of these vehicles to charge during off-peak times, like in the middle of the night. And the other part of that is reducing emissions that come from buildings. Buildings constitute about 70% of greenhouse gas emissions in the district, so the lion's share of emissions. And their plans come into essentially making sure that their lines, their substations, can accommodate the additional demand that would come from requiring more electricity for each of these buildings to heat and cool and run all their appliances and the like as they electrify. And that would come with additional rate structures that the Public Service Commission would approve to make sure that it is being equitably distributed, the cost across the entirety of all ratepayers.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to talk about is our clients. How are our clients going to feel the impact of this climate policy on their bills?
So ultimately, the goal of these emissions reductions programs and the transition to a more electric and less fossil fuel-based energy system in the district is meant to reduce costs in the long term. As we saw with the invasion of Ukraine, gas prices rose significantly at that time.
Yep.
There are significant variabilities that come with fossil fuel prices. And so electrification is meant to slow that curve out, as well as putting in renewable resources to make sure that it is, in the longer term, a lower cost. That said, in the short term, there may be additional rate costs that come into play, rising rates to fund that additional infrastructure, to put in additional pieces within substations to make sure that you have lines and transformers that can handle the additional costs, the additional load from electrical demand. And so we may see short-term increases, but in the long term, it's meant to lower costs for all ratepayers.
Okay. All right. Well, this is great information. I can tell you now that we are going to have a lot going on with climate in the near future. As Adam mentioned, a lot of these filings have been recently filed, but OPC will be actively involved in all these proceedings, both at the commission and at the council, and we will continue to keep you up to date.